As we return to our story, the hours, minutes, and seconds have unfolded and disappeared, never to be seen again. We traverse the spiderweb thin tightrope, which separates fact from fiction and leads us back to the three travelers.
A lot of people don't think Toonami is relevant anymore. While the editing techniques used to promote the block effortlessly keep people's attention, those very same elements can almost work against it. Recontextualizing footage has always been Adult Swim's game, but anime characters are integrated into the entire frame in a way that's very different to their Western counterparts. And when you're cutting this fast, forcing the action to zigzag between right and left, all that background detail either goes to waste or just serves as base visual stimulation.
The road has not been an easy one. It has been long with twists and turns, too numerous to count.
Oh, this should be good.
Besides, online streaming is practically the standard nowadays, with staggeringly large catalogs and unprecedented variety among the offered titles. Even though Toonami is doing everything in its power to compete with this inevitability, as seen with Space Dandy and even more recently with Dimension W,
You're a low-life jerk!
The collective consciousness of the Western anime fandom makes staying relevant a nearly impossible uphill battle. But we'd be remiss to say that stopped them in the slightest.
How did you do that?
You're tense, I'm calm. You apply excessive force, and I control that force through fluid motion. Do you see now? It means becoming like clear water.
Water.
Water can take any form. It drifts without effort one moment, then pounds down in a torrent the very next.
If Toonami's revival was a failed experiment doomed for destruction from the beginning, then why were so many fans vocal about bringing it back in the first place? And how come it's lasted this long, almost a full 20 years later? Is it really all just a part of the nostalgia revival craze we've been going through these past few years?
I don't know much about the entertainment industry.
Toonami has become so ingrained in fan culture that we can tell what shows would best be suited for it almost on instinct. When we say that Mob Psycho or Lupin III are Toonami shows, somehow people understand what that means. Because while it is true that it'll never have a wide-ranging lineup comparable to a large streaming service, what Toonami lacks in diversity it makes up for with a far more personal community. Between stuff like the articles posted on Crunchyroll and the Double Talk podcasts on Funimation, those two networks get their communities from the people running them.
Shut your fat mouth.
While Toonami, on the other hand, managed to shape and expand on an entire fan base primarily through its actual lineup. With a bit of help from a couple of CGI robots, of course.
I think it's time we talked about respect. How to earn it, when to give it, and what it's good for.
Tom, voiced by Steve Blum, and Sara, voiced by Dana Swanson, almost act like the moderators to the action. Their smooth 3D bodies don't just reset the progress of each fight whenever we cut to them, because they also address everyone, both characters and viewers, all at once.
Seems to me a lot of folks these days don't care much about respecting other people.
The Full Metal Alchemist is just a little kid.
Don't call me little!
I see you're no stranger to combat.
With so much violence in one place, it's tempting to say that it'll eventually become desensitizing. But again, that isn't the case, because another trademark of Toonami Promos is that they manage to keep the characters' faces in clear view as much as possible. Despite the technical or tonal clashes between the anime used, Toonami's brand is a conscious effort to help viewers understand the sentiment that people have the means of staying connected despite any specific differences. A lesson I feel us anime fans still struggle with to this day.
Maybe in this anonymous computer age, some of us have forgotten what it's like to be human.
Apparently, the human race has regressed rather than evolved.
Quite an understatement.
You would think that the people who take the time to discuss and thoroughly analyze foreign cartoons that were never intended for them to begin with would be the first ones to display all this unadulterated goodness in a welcoming form.
What a day.
So why does it feel like the community surrounding anime is deliberately trying to raise the entry level higher and higher? It's not like I'm exempt from this either. I mean, just get a load of my Twitter feed. But the point is, whenever someone pegs Toonami as a filter to the diversity of Japanese animation, a byproduct of outdated localization, or when they proudly exclaim that there is more to anime than dumb fights and shouting about friendship, it mostly just reminds me how much we really don't appreciate what we claim we do. In our constant effort to move forward, it almost feels like we've become afraid of learning from the past. And nowadays, it's all about pursuing that perfect state of awareness by consuming as much new content and industry information as possible. But the fact of the matter is, while that stuff is still important to a degree, it's this constant unrestrained push for variety in our tastes that might end up ironically limiting the ways in which we can develop those tastes. And it's funny that the people I complain about are the ones who always propagate the notion of show don't tell. But how can I take advice from those who don't seem willing to do what they show or tell me?
Good grief, I've stumbled into an extra special kind of freak show, huh?
I know a lot of this can come off as childish, and many of you might not feel the same way. Maybe I'm just using an extreme to understand an extreme. Because outside of what we see in certain adverts, good AMVs, and of course the shows themselves, when fans try to edit anime as a means of expressing their opinions, it's mostly just static and negligible at best. Now, some say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Granted, this video doesn't cut quite as fast as a Toonami promo, nor does it have such a high ratio of sound bites. But that's because it's almost 10 times as long. Still, we try to incorporate as much of these techniques as possible because how else can we ever hope to provide immediate evidence of its merits?
A sound soul dwells within a sound mind and a sound body.
But in this day and age, where it's not so much about how much you love something, but rather how much you know about something, it definitely feels like we forgot those fundamental values that we were lucky enough to be taught way back when.
You have courage and a fair amount of talent. But if you die, you have nothing.
We can't just sit around, not as long as we're still alive.
If Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist and the Major from Ghost in the Shell can communicate in the same world based solely on the fact that they can fight, then how come we can't get along based solely on the fact that we watch Japanese cartoons?
Right! Give them hell!
You could perfectly argue that Toonami as an entity is nothing more than pointless self-gratification. But at the very least, it insisted on sticking to its rhythm, constantly crisscrossing into all these weird but equally intense action shows until eventually it crossed right into reality, to us, reflecting the excitement of an entire audience right back at each individual viewer, one short promo at a time.
You gotta get out there and earn that respect. And one good way to make sure you get respect and get what you deserve is to give a little respect.
True.
Because if there's one thing Toonami Promos continue to teach us to this day, it's that it was never just about action. It was about the interaction.
Get your hands off her!
So if you're feeling down, reach out for a friend. And when you're feeling good, look to give someone else a boost.
No matter who you are, ain't no one born into this world to be alone!
Because we're all in this together. We might as well be friends.